Hey guys, tonight we step barefoot into the cool hush of a bamboo grove, the moonlight painting silver lines on every leaf. Crickets hum softly as shadows drift between the tall, slender trunks. You feel the cool earth underfoot, damp with evening dew, and ahead, just visible through the mist, a weathered wooden gate waits, an entrance to a world you were never meant to find. Your pulse quickens. You probably won't survive this journey if you cling too tightly to who you think you are. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, drop a comment telling me where you're listening from and what time it is for you right now. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The gate creaks softly as you push it open, the wood rough beneath your palms. A narrow path curves ahead, lit by faint lanterns hanging from crook posts. Somewhere distant, the low thump of a taiko drum echoes across the valley. You breathe in the earthy scent of moss and wet stone, the air tasting of pine and smoke. With each step, you're pulled deeper into this strange, quiet world, until you emerge into a clearing where an ancient dojo stands, half hidden among the trees. The dojo's roof is curved like a dragon's spine, its edges lined with faded ceramic tiles. You can almost feel the weight of centuries pressing against its walls. The hush of countless students who have trained here before you. Your heart beats faster, not with fear, but with a strange anticipation. This is no tourist site, no relic, it's alive. Suddenly, the wind shifts, and you sense you're not alone. A figure steps forward from the shadows, tall, robed in deep indigo, face lined with age, but eyes sharp as polished steel. This is the sensei, the master of this place, and without a word, he gestures for you to follow. You hesitate, then move. The ground crunches softly under your feet as you cross the threshold. Inside, the floorboards creak, and the faint scent of incense curls in the air. Lanterns flicker, casting long shadows across wooden beams and paper screens. You realize, with a sudden jolt, that you've crossed more than a physical line. Here, the rules are different. Time stretches, breath slows, and every movement seems charged with meaning. You feel the pulse of your own heartbeat in your ears, your breath shallow. But the sensei only waits patient, as if daring you to settle, to center yourself before you take another step. And slowly you do. The first lesson is not in combat or weaponry, but in presence. The sensei leads you to kneel beside a small koi pond, its surface still and dark beneath the moon. He says nothing, merely sits with you, both of you staring into the rippling reflections. At first your mind races. Why am I here? What am I supposed to do? Should I speak? Should I act? But the sensei remains silent, his breathing deep and slow, eyes soft but unblinking. Minutes pass, maybe hours. You lose track. Slowly, something inside you softens. You let the restless thoughts pass through you like drifting clouds, noticing the cool air on your skin, the soft lap of water against stone, the quiet rustle of bamboo overhead. You begin to settle, without realizing you were unsettled to begin with. And just when you think you've found stillness, the sensei rises, and with a flick of his hand, sends a pebble skimming across the pond. Ripples shatter the moon's reflection, and he looks at you sharply, as if to say, even in stillness, everything moves. You follow him deeper into the dojo, heart beating slow and steady now. Inside, the walls are lined with weapons, katanas, spears, wooden bokken, each carefully placed, gleaming faintly in the lantern light. But the sensei walks past them all, leading you instead to a small alcove where a single scroll hangs. You can't read the calligraphy, but the brushstrokes pulse with a strange energy, raw yet precise, wild yet contained. The sensei gestures for you to sit, and you do, folding your legs beneath you. He speaks at last, his voice low, measured, each word falling like a stone into still water. He tells you that the path of the warrior is not one of violence, but of mastery, of the self of the moment, of the blade not raised in anger, but in defense of peace. You listen, the words soaking into you like rain on dry earth. Outside, the wind rises, rattling the paper screens. You glance up, momentarily distracted, and the sensei taps the floor sharply with his staff. Stay here, his eyes seem to say. This moment is the only one you need. You take a slow breath, feeling the tension drain from your shoulders. Here, in this quiet space, you sense the centuries of discipline, the generations of students who sat as you do now, seeking not power, but peace. And for the first time, you understand that this journey will test more than your strength. It will challenge everything you think you know about yourself. The sensei stands, beckoning you to follow. You rise, legs stiff, heart strangely light. The night deepens outside, stars scattered like spilled rice across the sky. You know the path ahead will be hard, but something inside you stirs, steady and calm. You take a final glance at the pond, its surface smooth once more, the ripples faded into memory. Then you step forward, into the darkened hall, into the next chapter of your training. The hallway feels colder as you follow the sensei's quiet footsteps, your bare soles whispering against the worn wooden floor. The lanterns flicker softly, casting long shadows that sway and twist like spirits along the walls. You wonder how many students have walked this same path, each pulled forward by the quiet pull of something bigger than themselves. Without warning, the sensei stops. He turns sharply, his eyes pinning you with a look that feels as heavy as a sword pressed to your chest. He says nothing, but his posture asks a silent question: why are you here? Before you can answer, he moves swiftly, a blur of motion, and you feel a sharp tap on your shoulder. You flinch, not from pain, but from surprise. You never saw it coming. The sensei frowns, shaking his head slowly. He taps his temple, then his chest. Not here, here. You swallow hard, realizing that your mind is darting ahead, imagining trials, picturing success or failure, worrying about what's to come. But none of that is real. Only this moment, this breath, matters. The sensei leads you into an open room, sparsely furnished. Tatami mats line the floor, and on the far side rests a single wooden post, worn smooth by years of strikes. The sensei gestures for you to approach. You do, feeling the roughness of the wood under your fingertips, the faint scent of sweat and pine lingering in the air. Without a word, he hands you a wooden practice sword, a bokken. It's heavier than you expect, the weight pulling at your wrist, demanding your full attention. He steps back, watching carefully. You raise the sword awkwardly, unsure of your stance. Immediately, the sensei moves, adjusting your shoulders, shifting your hips, guiding your grip. Your muscles tremble slightly as you hold the pose, every joint screaming in unfamiliar effort. Time stretches, sweat beads at your brow. Still you hold. Then, with a sudden sharpness, the sensei strikes, not hard but fast, tapping your leg, your arm, your shoulder. Each time, you stumble, falter, overreact. Each time, He waits patiently for you to reset. You begin to understand. This is not about defeating an opponent. It's about learning to face discomfort, to hold your ground, to stay balanced even when the world tests you. Minutes pass, maybe hours. You lose track as your focus narrows to the burning in your arms, the shaking in your legs, the steady rhythm of your breath. You start to anticipate the taps, learning to adjust, to stay rooted, to react only when needed. The sensei nods, almost imperceptibly. He moves back, allowing you space. You realize, with a flush of quiet pride, that you've passed this first, simple test, not of skill, but of humility. He gestures for you to kneel, and you do, heart still racing but mind strangely calm. He sits across from you, his voice low and steady as he explains the meaning of the silent blade. A warrior does not seek battle, he says. A warrior carries the blade, but the true fight is within. You listen, eyes fixed on the floor. The weight of the wooden sword still heavy in your lap. You feel the truth of his words settling into your bones, reshaping the way you see yourself, the way you see the path ahead. Suddenly, the door slides open. A rush of cool night air sweeps in, stirring the lantern flames. Another student enters, older, more experienced, his gaze sharp but respectful. The sensei gestures, and you understand it's time to spar. You rise slowly, heart thudding in your chest. The older student bows, and you return the gesture, clumsy but sincere. You take your stance, bokken raised, breath shallow. The first strike comes fast, a blur of motion that knocks your sword aside. You stumble, barely recovering before the next blow. Again and again, the older student presses forward, testing your defense, your balance, your patience. Frustration rises. You want to lash out, to fight back hard, but something in the sensei's steady gaze holds you still. You remember his lesson, the blade's strength is in stillness, in waiting, in precision. You adjust. You slow down. You let the strikes come, not meeting them with force, but with presence, with careful, measured movement. Slowly, the tide shifts. You begin to hold your ground. The spar ends not with a victory, but with a quiet nod. The older student smiles faintly, bowing once more before stepping back. You breathe out, shoulders sagging with exhaustion, but inside, something has shifted. The sensei approaches, placing a hand briefly on your shoulder. His eyes say what his mouth does not. Well done. You sit again, heart pounding, sweat cooling on your skin. You watch the lantern flames flicker, the shadows dancing softly across the walls. The night is deepening outside, and you know the path ahead will only get harder. But for now, you feel a quiet strength inside, a strength not born from victory, but from perseverance, from learning to stand still, to stay soft, even in the face of challenge. As the dojo settles into silence once more, you close your eyes, drawing in a slow, steady breath. You are not the same person who walked through the bamboo grove hours ago. You are becoming something new, a peaceful warrior, learning to master the most difficult opponent of all yourself. The morning light filters softly through the paper walls of the dojo, casting pale gold shapes that shift and shimmer as the sun rises. You wake slowly, body aching from the trials of the night before, muscles sore in places you didn't know existed. For a moment, you wonder if it was all a dream. The bamboo grove, the silent blade, the sensei's piercing gaze. But as you stretch and wince, the truth settles in your bones. You are here, and your training has only just begun. The sensei waits for you outside, his silhouette sharp against the glowing horizon. Without a word, he leads you to a clearing where the dew-soaked grass glitters like scattered jewels. You notice a small stone bench nearby, a basin of water resting on top, and beside it, a simple cloth. The sensei gestures for you to wash. As you dip the cloth into the cool water, you realize this is more than a physical cleansing. It's a ritual, a shedding of yesterday's worries, yesterday's failures, yesterday's victories. With each swipe of the cloth across your skin, you let go of what no longer serves you, preparing yourself to meet the new day as it is, fresh, unburdened. The sun climbs higher, warming your shoulders, as the sensei takes up a practice sword and begins to move. His form is slow, deliberate, each step flowing seamlessly into the next. You watch, mesmerized, as the blade cuts through the air without haste or aggression. When he finishes, he turns to you, eyes calm, and hands you your own bokken. You take it, feeling its familiar weight settle into your hands. And so begins the lesson of the silent blade. You learn to move, not to strike or defend, but to flow, to align your breath with your motion, your mind with your body. The sensei shows you how to lift the sword with care, how to pivot from the hips, how to let your center guide every gesture. At first, you're clumsy, your movements jerky and awkward. You overthink every step, trying to match the sensei's grace, his precision. But he stops you gently, shaking his head. "Not here," he says, tapping your temple. "Here." He taps your chest. You take a slow breath, closing your eyes. You let the tension drain from your shoulders, letting the bokken rest naturally in your hands. When you move again, something shifts. You stop forcing the motion. Stop trying to control every detail. You simply move, soft, fluid, present. The sensei nods faintly. He steps beside you, guiding you through each form, each transition, each subtle shift in weight. Hours pass in a quiet rhythm of motion and stillness, breath and pause. As the day wears on, your body tires, but your mind begins to clear. You no longer focus on getting it right or looking impressive. You simply inhabit the practice, surrendering to its quiet discipline. When the sensei finally calls a halt, you're soaked in sweat, muscles trembling, but inside, a stillness hums, a calm born not from mastery, but from presence. The sensei gestures toward the edge of the clearing, where a small pavilion stands overlooking the valley. You follow him there, sinking gratefully onto the wooden bench. He pours tea into 2 simple cups, the fragrance earthy and grounding. Together, you drink, the tea's warmth seeping through you like sunlight. The sensei speaks softly, sharing the philosophy behind the movements you've practiced. The sword is not an extension of anger, he says. It is an extension of presence. The silent blade cuts not with force, but with awareness. You listen carefully, the words sinking deeper than you expect. You realize how often you move through your own life with clenched fists, grasping, forcing, pushing. Here, you are learning a new way to move with the flow, to act without aggression, to carry strength without needing to display it. As you finish the tea, the sensei rises, his movements smooth and unhurried. He gestures for you to follow once more, leading you back through the clearing, through the shadowed hallways, and into the main training space. There, a group of students waits, some young, some older, all kneeling in quiet readiness. You sense the hum of shared focus, the quiet bond that ties them together. You take your place among them, bowing your head, feeling a part of something ancient and sacred. The practice begins. A flowing sequence of forms and movements, each student moving in sync. The room filled with the soft swish of wooden blades and the steady rhythm of breath. You fall into the pattern, letting yourself be carried by the group's momentum, your individual effort dissolving into the collective. As the sun sinks toward the horizon, casting long golden beams through the windows, the session comes to a close. You bow once more, heart full, body spent, spirit strangely light. Outside, the sky burns orange and pink, the air cooling as night approaches. You stand quietly with the other students, watching the sun slip behind the mountains. The sensei stands nearby, his silhouette calm and steady, a quiet reminder of the path you have chosen to walk. Tonight you will rest. Tomorrow you will rise again, and each day, each practice, each breath will carry you closer to the heart of the warrior's way. Night drapes itself over the mountains like a dark silk robe, the stars pricking holes through the fabric of the sky. You sit cross-legged in a small chamber of the dojo, the paper walls glowing softly from a single lantern. Before you, a low table waits, holding a simple clay teapot and 2 cups. You inhale deeply, the faint aroma of roasted tea leaves blending with the earthy scent of the wooden floor. The door slides open with a whisper, and the sensei enters. His presence is quiet but undeniable, like a stone resting at the bottom of a still pond. He settles opposite you without a word, his movements fluid and unhurried. You watch as he lifts the teapot with both hands, tilting it slowly, letting the pale liquid pour in a steady stream into each cup. The tea ceremony begins, not as a display, but as a meditation. Every action is intentional, every gesture precise, every breath measured. You notice the way the sensei holds the teacup, the way he pauses before drinking, the way his eyes rest softly on the steam curling upward. You mimic his movements, feeling the warmth of the cup between your palms, the slight tremble of your own breath. The first sip is delicate, earthy, grounding. As the liquid slides down your throat, you feel your shoulders relax, the tension of the day unwinding like a knot slowly loosening. The sensei's voice is soft, almost like a whisper. The tea does not hurry, he says. The steam rises, the warmth spreads, the flavor unfolds. Nothing is rushed, and yet nothing is delayed. You nod slowly, the words washing over you. You realize how rarely you allow yourself this kind of pause. The simple, complete experience of a small moment, free from distraction or expectation. The sensei's gaze sharpens slightly, and he asks, "When you drink tea, where is your mind?" You hesitate. You think of the day's training, of the soreness in your arms, of the thoughts flitting like restless birds in your head. The sensei smiles faintly, as if reading your mind. "When you drink tea, he says. The lesson is simple, yet it lands deep in your chest. You feel the truth of it echoing through more than just the tea ceremony. How often do you split yourself between past regrets, future worries, and present distractions? How often do you miss the one thing unfolding right before you? You take another sip, more mindful this time. You feel the texture, the temperature, the taste blooming across your tongue. You let yourself be here, not in tomorrow's sparring session, not in yesterday's mistakes, but here, in the warmth of the cup, in the flicker of the lantern light, in the steady presence of the sensei across from you. Time stretches and softens. The room fades until there is only the tea, only the breath, only the quiet hum of life in this small moment. When the tea is finished, The sensei sets down his cup and rises. You follow, bowing respectfully. He leads you outside, where the moon hangs heavy and full above the treetops. The night air is cool and damp, carrying the faint scent of pine and earth. Crickets sing softly in the shadows, their rhythm slow and hypnotic. The sensei walks slowly, his hands folded behind his back, and you match his pace. You feel the ground beneath your feet, the slight chill of the air against your skin, the steady beat of your own heart. He stops at the edge of the koi pond, the same one where you sat on your first night here. The moonlight dances on the rippling surface, and you catch glimpses of the fish moving gracefully below. The sensei crouches, picking up a small stone, and tosses it gently into the water. Ripples spread outward, distorting the moon's reflection. You watch, mesmerized, as the rings widen, soften, and eventually fade. The mind is like water, the sensei says quietly. When agitated, it becomes cloudy. When still, it reflects clearly. You kneel beside him, watching the pond settle once more. You feel your breath slow, your thoughts softening, the restlessness within you beginning to quiet. For a long while, you simply sit together, listening to the night. The world narrows to the sound of the breeze in the trees, the occasional splash of a fish, the steady rhythm of your breath. And in that stillness, you realize that the true training, the real challenge, is not just in the physical practice, but in the practice of being here, fully, completely, without rushing ahead or pulling back. When you finally rise, the sensei places a hand briefly on your shoulder. No words are exchanged, but you feel the silent encouragement in his touch. You walk back to your room under the light of the moon, feeling the cool earth beneath your feet, the steady pulse of life all around you. As you slip beneath your blanket, the scent of tea still lingers faintly on your breath, and as sleep pulls you under, you carry with you the quiet wisdom of the night to move with intention, to act with awareness, and to meet each small moment as if it were the only one that matters. The morning arrives with a sharp bite of cold, the kind that slips beneath your clothes and settles against your skin. You wake to the soft thud of wooden sandals on the hallway floor, the faint scrape of a door sliding open. Outside, the first light of dawn paints pale streaks across the sky, the trees silhouetted against the glowing horizon. Today is the day of discipline. You rise quickly, muscles still aching from yesterday, but you push aside the stiffness. The sensei waits outside, his silhouette calm, his breath a faint mist in the morning chill. He leads you down a narrow stone path, past the koi pond, past the training yard, into the deep woods beyond the dojo. The trees close in around you, their trunks thick and ancient, the ground covered in damp leaves and gnarled roots. The path grows steeper, winding upward, until you reach a clearing at the base of a jagged cliff. Here, a narrow waterfall slices down the rock face, its water icy and clear, pooling into a small basin below. The sensei turns to you, his eyes sharp. He gestures to the water, then to you. Without a word, you understand. You are to stand beneath it. You hesitate, just for a breath, feeling the cold whip against your skin. But then you step forward, stripping away your outer robe, your bare feet sinking into the cold mud. You wade into the pool, each step sending a shock up your spine. The water rushes around your ankles, your knees, your waist, and then you stand beneath the falls. The force of the water crashes down on your shoulders, your back, your head. It pounds against you like a hammer, numbing your skin, stealing your breath. You grit your teeth, every muscle tensing, every instinct screaming to step away, to flee the cold, the discomfort, the relentless pressure. But you don't. You stay. The sensei's voice floats to you through the roar of the falls, barely audible but clear in its meaning. Discipline is not forcing, it is enduring. You take a shaky breath, eyes squeezed shut, and let the cold pass through you. You stop fighting it, stop bracing against it, and instead allow it to be what it is: sharp, relentless, but not personal. You soften into the experience, feeling the strange strength that comes not from resisting, but from accepting. Minutes pass, maybe longer. Time becomes slippery, stretched thin by the cold and the roar of the water. When the sensei finally gestures for you to return, you stumble out of the pool, your limbs heavy and trembling, but your heart strangely light. You dress slowly, your fingers stiff, your breath steaming in the cold air. As you follow the sensei back through the woods, you feel a quiet pride blooming in your chest. Not because you conquered the cold, but because you learned to face it without flinching. Back at the dojo, the day's training begins. Today, it is grueling, far more intense than before. You run drills until your legs burn, practice stances until your arms feel like lead, spar until sweat pours from your skin in rivers. The sensei moves among the students, correcting, adjusting, pushing you all harder, faster, sharper. You stumble, you falter, but each time you rise, each time you reset, each time you meet the task head on, no longer afraid of discomfort or challenge. Because now you understand discipline is not about punishment. It's about presence. It's about meeting the hard moments fully, without shrinking away. As the sun dips low, casting long shadows across the training yard, the sensei calls a halt. You sink to your knees, chest heaving, body shaking with exhaustion. Around you, the other students kneel as well, forming a quiet circle, heads bowed. The sensei walks among you, his steps slow and measured. He speaks softly, his voice threading through the twilight. A warrior's strength is not measured by how hard they strike, but by how deeply they endure. To stand in the storm, to hold steady in the trial, that is the fire of discipline. You let his words settle into your bones, feeling their truth hum through your tired body. You realize how much you've already grown, not just in skill, but in resilience, in quiet inner strength. That night, as you lie on your mat, the aches and pains of the day wash over you like a tide. But beneath the fatigue, you feel something steadier, something deeper, a new understanding of what it means to hold your ground, to meet challenge without flinching, to endure without hardening. And as you drift towards sleep, you know this lesson will shape not just your time here, but every step of the path ahead. The night is deep and silent, save for the occasional sigh of wind slipping through the paper screens. You sit alone in the meditation hall, legs folded beneath you, hands resting lightly on your thighs. The room is dim, lit only by a single flickering candle. Its flame wavers and dances, casting long, shifting shadows across the polished floor. Here, there is no movement, no sparring, no training drills. Only you, only your restless mind. At first, it seems easy enough. You take slow breaths, feeling your body settle, letting your shoulders relax. You close your eyes, listening to the quiet, feeling the soft rhythm of your pulse in your chest. But then, the thoughts begin to rise. At first, they come softly. The echo of the day's lessons, the strain in your muscles, the sound of the sensei's voice. But soon, they multiply. You remember mistakes you made, moments when you faltered, times you wanted to give up. You imagine what tomorrow will bring, the next challenge, the next test, the next moment of discomfort. Your mind flickers ahead, jumps back, spins in tight, anxious circles. The stillness outside feels like a mirror, reflecting the noise inside. The candle sputters slightly, pulling your gaze. You watch it flicker, the flame bending and shivering with each faint shift in the air. You realize your breath has quickened. Your shoulders have tensed again. Your jaw is tight. The sensei's voice echoes faintly in your memory. The body is the sheath. The mind is the blade. You take a slow, deliberate breath. Then another. You bring your attention back, not to the thoughts themselves, but to the act of noticing them. The quiet space beneath the noise. You feel the cool air in your nostrils, the slight rise and fall of your chest, the faint tremble in your legs. You remind yourself that you are here, now, not in yesterday, not in tomorrow. For a moment, the thoughts surge again, tugging at you. But you let them come, let them pass, like clouds drifting across a wide sky. You are not here to stop them, or silence them, or force them away. You are here to sit, to watch, to be present in the midst of them. Minutes slip by, maybe longer. Time softens, blurs. You open your eyes briefly and realize the candle has burned lower, its wax pooling slowly at the base. You close your eyes again, returning to the quiet, to the breath, to the simple act of sitting. You begin to sense the layers beneath the restlessness, the subtle currents of fear, doubt, longing, pride. You see how easily you chase after approval, how quickly you recoil from discomfort, how fiercely you cling to the idea of getting it right. And beneath all of that, you feel something else, a quiet, steady presence waiting beneath the noise. The sensei had spoken of this during a morning lesson. When you face the mirror, what do you see? The warrior sees not the surface, but the reflection of the heart. You sit longer, allowing yourself to soften into that space, to meet whatever rises without judgment, without resistance. You begin to realize that the real trial tonight is not holding a perfect meditation or achieving some ideal state of calm. The trial is simply staying with yourself, staying in the discomfort, staying present when everything in you wants to run or hide. Eventually, you hear a faint step behind you. You open your eyes to find the sensei standing quietly near the doorway, his gaze soft but piercing. He nods once, approving, and without a word, slips away into the night. You rise slowly, legs stiff, muscles complaining. But your mind feels clearer, your breath steadier. You step outside into the cool night, feeling the dew, damp grass under your feet, the vast spread of stars overhead. You realize that the hardest battles are not fought with swords or strength or speed. They are fought within, the battle to stay, to face what is, to meet yourself fully without flinching. As you walk slowly back to your quarters, you carry this quiet victory with you. Not a triumph over enemies or obstacles, but a triumph over your own restless mind. And as you slip beneath your blanket, you know that each night here will test you in ways you cannot prepare for. But you also know that you are learning, slowly, to meet those tests with patience, with steadiness, with the calm of a peaceful warrior. The morning mist clings low to the ground, curling around your ankles as you step barefoot onto the worn wooden deck of the dojo. Today, the air feels heavier, charged with something you can't name. The sensei waits in the main hall, a long wooden rack of swords arranged behind him, some steel, some wooden, some so old their hilts are wrapped in faded silk. You kneel before him, bowing low, feeling the weight of the moment settle across your shoulders. Today is the lesson of the sword, not the silent blade you've practiced in form and breath, but the sword in motion, the dance of steel. The sensei places a bokken in your hands, then selects one for himself. His eyes meet yours, calm and unreadable, and without a word, he steps into the center of the room. He raises his weapon, not in challenge, but in invitation. You understand this is not a duel. This is a conversation. You take your stance, heart beating fast. The first movement comes swiftly, not a strike, but a glide, a shift, a redirection. The sensei moves with such fluid grace that his presence seems to ripple through the air itself. You follow, trying to mirror him, your wooden sword slicing gently, deliberately, through the space between you. He guides you, sometimes stepping in close, sometimes spinning away, sometimes pausing so abruptly that you nearly lose your balance. But no matter how the movements change, his breath remains steady, his posture grounded. As the practice unfolds, you begin to lose track of where one gesture ends and the next begins. You realize this is not about memorizing moves or landing blows. It's about rhythm, flow, responsiveness. It's about becoming so attuned to the present moment that you and your opponent, your partner, become part of a single, seamless dance. The sensei stops suddenly, lowering his bokken. He nods toward the garden, and you follow him outside. Heart still pounding, sweat cooling on your skin. He gestures for you to sit beneath a broad cherry tree, its branches just beginning to bloom. He speaks softly, his voice carrying the same calm precision as his movements. A warrior does not cut to destroy, he says. A warrior cuts to reveal. You frown slightly, not understanding. He smiles faintly, placing his bokken across his lap. When you move with anger, your blade is heavy, dull, blind. When you move with presence, your blade is light, sharp, clear. It cuts not through flesh, but through illusion, through fear, through pride, through the lie of separation. You sit quietly, letting the words settle. You watch a petal drift from the tree, twisting softly in the breeze, landing without a sound on the ground. The sensei rises again, beckoning you back to the dojo. You return to the wooden floor, bokken in hand, and this time as you move, you feel something shift. You stop trying to control the exchange. You stop chasing perfection. You start listening to the space, to the breath, to the quiet undercurrent of movement between you and the sensei. The dance of the sword becomes less about striking and more about meeting, responding, flowing. You notice the subtle shifts in his weight, the flicker of intention before each movement. You learn to adjust, not with tension, but with softness, with readiness, with quiet awareness. As the sun arcs higher, casting long beams through the open doors, the sensei calls a pause. You kneel once more, bokken resting across your knees, breath slowing, heart settling. He stands silently before you for a long moment, then bows, his eyes warm and steady. You bow in return, feeling a strange mixture of exhaustion and exhilaration. You realize you have glimpsed something today. Not mastery, not victory, but the beginning of a deeper understanding. That night, you sit again beneath the cherry tree, watching the petals drift down like pale pink snow. You replay the day's lessons in your mind. Not the strikes, not the stances, but the moments of quiet connection, the spaces between the movements, the stillness inside the flow. You understand now that the dance of the sword is not about defeating an opponent. It's about moving in harmony with life itself, about meeting each challenge with presence, with clarity, with an open heart. As the moon rises and the stars emerge one by one, you close your eyes, feeling the wooden sword resting across your lap, the faint scent of blossoms in the air. And you know that tomorrow, and every day after, you will step once more into the dance, not to conquer, but to continue learning, to continue refining, to continue cutting through the illusions that keep you from the heart of the warrior's path. The storm arrives before dawn, sweeping over the mountains with a raw, electric force. You wake to the sound of wind battering the paper walls, rain hammering the roof, and distant thunder rolling across the valley like the roar of some ancient beast. The sensei finds you standing by the doorway, watching the storm tear through the trees. His expression is calm, unaffected. Without a word, he gestures for you to follow. You hesitate for a breath, then pull on your robe and step into the downpour. The wind slams into you, nearly knocking you off balance. Rain pelts your skin, cold and sharp as needles. The sensei moves ahead, his robe whipping in the wind, his steps steady despite the mud and rushing water. You push forward, heart pounding, senses sharpened by the chaos around you. He leads you up a narrow mountain path, slick with rain, the ground crumbling beneath your feet. Branches whip at your face, the roar of the storm drowning out every sound but your own ragged breathing. You glance up once, and lightning splits the sky, illuminating the sensei's silhouette on the ridge above, solid, unshaken, utterly present. When you reach the top, you're soaked through, shivering, lungs burning. The sensei stands waiting, his gaze steady, his presence somehow still amid the raging wind. He gestures for you to take your stance. You hesitate, confused. Here, in the middle of this storm, but the sensei's eyes leave no room for doubt. You draw your practiced sword, feeling the rain, heavy weight of it in your hands, and lift it before you. The wind howls, shoving against you, trying to wrench the weapon from your grip. You plant your feet wider, adjusting, feeling the give of the earth, the rush of the rain, the pulse of the storm in your veins. The sensei raises his own bokken and moves toward you, not aggressively, not forcefully, but with quiet precision. Each step a lesson. You meet his movements, struggling to stay balanced, to stay focused. Your hands slip on the wet wood. Your muscles shake with effort. You falter, slip, recover, falter again. Each time you stumble, the sensei waits, watching, his gaze sharp but patient. He speaks once, his voice barely audible over the storms. Calm is not found in stillness. Calm is found within the storm. You take a shaky breath, feeling the truth of his words settle into your chest. You stop trying to resist the wind, stop bracing against the rain. You let yourself soften, adjust, move with the forces around you rather than against them. Slowly, the struggle lessens. You begin to flow, not perfectly, not flawlessly, but with a quiet acceptance. You find your breath again, your balance, your center. The storm does not ease, but something within you shifts. You no longer feel like a small, battered figure fighting the elements. You feel like part of the storm, moving through it, shaped by it, but not broken. The sensei nods faintly, lowering his bokken. He steps back, letting you stand alone against the wind. You hold your stance, eyes steady, breath calm, rain streaming down your face and arms. You feel the pulse of the earth beneath your feet, the beat of the storm in your blood, the quiet strength rising within you. Eventually, the sensei gestures for you to follow him back down the mountain. The descent is treacherous, the mud slick and unstable, but you move with greater confidence now, sensing the flow of the ground beneath you, adjusting to each shift, each stumble, each sudden gust of wind. Back at the dojo, you peel off your soaked robe, your skin cold and raw, but your spirit strangely alive. You dry off in silence, heart still racing from the storm, mind humming with the lessons of the morning. The sensei approaches, placing a hand briefly on your shoulder. His touch is light but grounding, a silent acknowledgement of what you've endured, of what you've learned. That night, as you sit beneath the eaves and listen to the rain soften into a steady drizzle, you reflect on the day's challenge. You realize that the storm was never the enemy. The enemy was your own resistance, your own fear, your own desperate need for control. Now, you understand that true calm is not the absence of chaos. It's the presence you carry within it. It's the steady breath, the grounded step, the clear gaze that allows you to move through life's storms without being swept away. As the clouds part and the first stars emerge, you feel a quiet gratitude stir within you, not just for the lessons, but for the storms themselves, the trials that shape you, strengthen you, and teach you how to hold your ground with grace. Morning sun breaks through the clouds, warm and golden after the storm's fury. You walk quietly through the outer gardens of the dojo, feet brushing against gravel paths carefully raked into flowing patterns. Here, among smooth stones, pale sand, and sparse green moss, the world feels stripped back, simple, still. The sensei appears beside you, silent as always, his gaze sweeping over the garden. He motions gently, inviting you to sit on a wooden bench at the edge of the sand. You obey, folding your legs beneath you, feeling the warmth of the sun seep slowly into your skin. For a long moment, you say nothing, and neither does he. Together, you watch the wind ripple faintly across the surface of the raked sand, shifting the tiniest grains, blurring the sharp edges. A few pale petals drift down from a nearby plum tree, landing softly among the rocks. The garden teaches patience, the sensei says at last, his voice a soft murmur. Each stone placed with care, each line drawn with intention, only to be reshaped by wind, by rain, by time. You let the words settle, following his gaze as it moves from stone to sand to sky. You begin to sense what he means. Here nothing is fixed, nothing lasts forever. The garden's beauty lies not in its perfection, but in its quiet acceptance of change, of impermanence. The sensei rises, moving slowly into the garden with a wooden rake. You watch as he begins to draw long, flowing lines through the sand, the rake's teeth combing smooth paths that curve gently around the larger stones. His movements are deliberate, almost meditative, each step placed with care, each stroke measured and calm. He gestures for you to join him, handing you a second rake. You hesitate, feeling clumsy, unsure. But then you step forward, mirroring his pace, letting your hands guide the rake through the sand. At first, your lines are uneven, your grip too tight, your focus too narrow. But gradually, you begin to soften, to relax into the rhythm of the work. Together, you move through the garden, reshaping the patterns, smoothing the marks left by the storm. You realize that the practice isn't about creating something permanent or flawless. It's about being present, about tending to what is here now, knowing it will shift again tomorrow. As the sun climbs higher, you pause to rest beneath the plum tree. The sensei speaks softly, sharing a Zen teaching. A single petal falls, and the world changes. We cannot stop this, but we can choose how we meet each change. You close your eyes, feeling the weight of those words settle deep inside. You think of the storms you've faced, not just yesterday on the mountain, but in your own heart, the doubts, the fears, the restless grasping. You begin to see that the warrior's path is not about conquering or controlling the world, but about learning to flow with it, to meet each moment fully, to tend to the present with care. The sensei rises again, brushing sand from his robe, and you follow. He leads you to a small stone basin near the garden's edge, where clear water trickles slowly from a bamboo spout. He cups his hands, scooping the water, and gestures for you to do the same. As the cool liquid runs over your fingers, you feel a quiet washing, not just of your hands, but of your mind, your spirit. You sense the gentle reset, the small invitation to begin again, to meet the next moment fresh and open. That evening, as the sun slips behind the hills and the sky deepens to soft purples and golds, you sit once more at the edge of the garden. The lines you drew today are already softened by the breeze. The petals you noticed have scattered further, the shadows have shifted and stretched, and yet you feel no frustration, no loss. You feel only the quiet peace of tending, of shaping what you can while releasing what you cannot hold. As night falls and the lanterns flicker to life, you carry this lesson with you, that patience is not passive, not resigned. It is an active, open-hearted presence, a willingness to meet change with grace, to care for each moment, even as you know it will pass. You close your eyes, breathing in the cool night air, and feel a subtle strength rising inside you. Not the brittle strength of resistance, but the deep, flowing strength of acceptance, of patience, of the peaceful warrior tending to the ever-changing garden of life. Night cloaks the dojo in stillness, but inside, your heart pounds. You kneel before the sensei, his expression unreadable, his eyes sharp and steady. Tonight's lesson is not one of movement or form, but of choice, of the weight of honor, and the quiet, often painful path it demands. The sensei places a folded letter before you. You recognize the seal. It comes from the village below, where the farmers and families rely on the dojo for protection. You unfold the paper with trembling fingers, reading quickly, heart sinking. A dispute has broken out. Two families, locked in bitter conflict over land, threatening violence. Both sides demand intervention. Both sides believe they are right. And now the dojo must decide whom to support, whose claim is just, whose pain is greater. You look up, searching the sensei's face for guidance, but he says nothing. He watches you, his gaze steady, waiting. You realize with a slow, sinking clarity that this is your test, not of skill, not of strength, but of judgment. The sensei leads you through the darkened halls, out into the moonlit courtyard. He speaks softly as you walk. A warrior does not choose the path of convenience, nor the path of praise. A warrior chooses the path of truth, even when it cuts. You listen, heart heavy. You think of the families you've met in the village, the children who wave shyly when you pass, the elders who bow with quiet respect. You think of the cost of your decision, of the disappointment you will bring to one side, the burden you will carry no matter which way you turn. You sit beneath the old cedar tree, the letter in your lap, the night cool and silent around you. The sensei leaves you alone, trusting you to weigh the matter yourself. You close your eyes, taking a slow, steady breath. You feel the tug of loyalty, the sting of sympathy, the creeping fear of making the wrong choice. You let those feelings rise, swirl, and settle, and beneath them, you search for something quieter, something clearer. You remember the lessons of the garden to tend with care, knowing you cannot control all outcomes. You remember the trials of the storm to stand in the chaos, steady and centered. You remember the dance of the sword, to move with presence, not aggression. Slowly, a sense of clarity emerges, not a perfect answer, but a direction, a choice rooted not in pride or fear, but in the quiet truth of what feels just. You rise and return to the sensei, bowing deeply as you share your decision. He listens, face still, eyes intent. When you finish, he nods once, a faint flicker of approval in his gaze. He speaks softly. Honor is not found in victory. It is found in the willingness to bear the burden of your choices. The next morning, you walk down to the village with a small group of senior students, delivering the dojo's response. The families receive the news with a mix of gratitude and resentment, as you expected. There are no cheers, no triumph, only the quiet ripple of consequences moving outward. You return to the dojo heavy with thought. The sensei waits at the gate, his posture calm, his gaze gentle. He does not ask how it went. He does not need to. That evening, as you sit once more beside the koi pond, watching the moon's reflection ripple across the water, you feel the full weight of what you've learned. Being a warrior is not about wielding a sword. It is about wielding your heart, your mind, your integrity. It is about standing steady when the choices are hard, when the path is unclear, when every step feels heavy with responsibility. You close your eyes, breathing in the cool night air, feeling the quiet hum of honor settling deep into your bones, not as a badge, not as a victory, but as a lifelong practice, a steady, humble commitment to walk the path of truth, no matter where it leads. Dawn filters through the thin paper screens, painting pale gold shapes across the wooden floor. You rise slowly, feeling the ache in your limbs, the quiet thrum of the days behind you. But today, the sensei has something different in store. You step into the dojo and find him seated in stillness, his eyes closed, his breath slow and deep. Before him lies a katana, not a wooden practice sword, but a real blade, its steel gleaming faintly in the morning light. You kneel across from him, waiting, heart steady, gaze soft. When the sensei opens his eyes, they are sharp as glass, yet calm as a still lake. He speaks only a few words. Today, you learn Mushin, the empty mind. You have heard the word whispered before among the senior students. Mushin, no mind, a state of pure presence, pure clarity, where thought and action become one, where the gap between intention and movement dissolves. It is not mindlessness, but fullness, a mind so empty of noise that it holds everything. The sensei rises, motioning for you to follow. Together, you step into the courtyard, where sunlight glints off dew-covered stones. He hands you the katana, not as a weapon, but as a teacher. Its weight feels different from the wooden bokken. It commands respect, demands attention. The sensei steps back, drawing his own blade. He moves with slow, deliberate precision, demonstrating the cuts, the stances, the transitions. You mirror him, feeling the weight of the sword guide your hands, feeling your breath match the arc of the blade. At first, your mind chatters. Am I holding it right? Am I too slow? Too fast? Should I adjust my grip? Each thought tugs you out of the moment, making your movements jerky, hesitant. The sensei pauses, his eyes steady on yours. Let go, he says softly. Let the blade move. You take a breath. You close your eyes. You listen, not to your thoughts, but to the quiet hum beneath them. The sound of the wind in the trees, the rhythm of your breath, the subtle pull of gravity through your body. And then you move. You stop thinking about the cut and simply cut. You stop worrying about the stance and simply step. You stop chasing perfection and simply flow. The world narrows and widens at once. Time stretches and contracts. There is only this breath, this blade, this moment. The sensei watches quietly, a faint smile at the corners of his mouth. When you finish, you kneel again, lowering the katana carefully across your lap. You feel a strange lightness in your chest, as if some hidden knot has loosened. He speaks softly. When the mind is empty, the heart can see. When the heart can see, the body can act. Without force, without hesitation, the rest of the day unfolds in quiet, seamless practice. You move through forms, through partnered drills, through silent walking meditations across the courtyard. Each moment is an invitation to return, not to thought, but to presence, not to control, but to awareness. As the sun dips low and the lanterns flicker to life, you sit once more with the sensei in the meditation hall. He places the katana gently on its stand, bowing his head. You understand, in the marrow of your bones, that mushin is not a goal you can chase, not a state you can force. It is a space you return to again and again, through breath, through stillness, through surrender. That night, lying beneath the darkened sky, you feel the quiet hum of this lesson settle deep within you. You realize how often you have moved through life clouded by hesitation, by doubt, by overthinking. You see now the quiet power of the empty mind, the clear heart, the steady hand. And you know that tomorrow, and every day after, you will practice, not to achieve, but to return again and again, to the peaceful warrior's path, the path of presence, of clarity, of quiet, unshakable strength. Night wraps the mountains in velvet shadow as you climb the narrow path to the summit. The dojo's lanterns are faint specks far below, the hush of evening settling softly over the world. The sensei walks beside you in silence, his footsteps light on the rocky trail. Tonight is your vigil. When you reach the top, you stand breathless beneath an ocean of stars. The Milky Way stretching overhead in a luminous arc. The wind is cool, carrying the faint scent of pine and stone. The sensei gestures for you to sit, and you lower yourself to the ground, crossing your legs, grounding your hands on the earth. He does not stay. He bows once, eyes glinting softly in the starlight, then turns and slips down the path, leaving you alone with the vast night sky. At first, your mind races. You think of the days behind you, the trials, the lessons, the moments of doubt and triumph. You wonder what tomorrow will bring. You wonder what the sensei expects you to realize here, in the dark, under the stars. But slowly, the noise begins to fall away. You feel the cool roughness of the ground beneath you, the slow rhythm of your breath, the faint pulse of your own heartbeat. You hear the whisper of wind through dry grass, the occasional rustle of some small night creature moving through the brush. You tilt your head back, gazing up at the stars. They seem impossibly distant, impossibly numerous, each one a silent witness to the countless lives, the countless stories unfolding below. You feel your own smallness, your own fragile place in the great, endless turning of the universe. And yet, strangely, you do not feel insignificant. You feel connected. You remember the sensei's words, "The warrior walks not above the world, but within it." Not apart from life, but as part of its unfolding. You close your eyes, drawing in a slow, deep breath. You feel the weight of the katana resting beside you, not as a weapon, but as a symbol, a reminder of the path you have chosen. You let the stillness seep into you, filling the quiet spaces where fear once lived. Time drifts, the stars wheel overhead. You do not know how long you sit there, only that something begins to settle, to soften inside you. You realize that the warrior's path is not a climb to mastery, not a race to achievement. It is a walking, a breathing, a constant returning to the present. It is a choice you make with every step, every breath, every moment. You open your eyes, gazing out over the sleeping valley below. The lights of the village flicker faintly in the distance, the mountains rising dark and silent beyond. You feel a quiet strength stirring within you, not loud, not blazing, but steady like the slow, constant glow of a distant star. You understand now why the sensei sent you here. Not to test you, not to teach you anything new, but to remind you of what has been inside you all along. You rise slowly, bowing once to the night sky, to the mountains, to the path you have walked. You gather your katana, feeling its familiar weight in your hands, and begin the slow descent back to the dojo. As you walk, the stars shine overhead, the wind whispers through the trees, and you carry with you the quiet, enduring knowledge that you are exactly where you need to be, on the path, walking it fully, one step at a time. The first pale light of dawn edges over the mountains as you stand in the courtyard, heart pounding, breath sharp. Today is the trial at dawn, the final test the sensei has prepared for you. Not one of speed or strength, but one of fear. The sensei stands across from you, his presence quiet but unshakable. Around you, a small circle of students has gathered, their faces solemn, their eyes steady. You sense that this moment is not just for you. It is a ritual that has unfolded here for generations. Without a word, the sensei draws his bokken, the wooden blade slicing cleanly through the cool morning air. You draw yours in turn, feeling its familiar weight in your hands, feeling the tremor of nerves running through your body. The sensei steps forward, not rushing, not aggressive, but with the slow, inevitable precision of a force you cannot escape. You brace yourself, gripping your weapon tighter, heart hammering against your ribs. And then, he stops. His eyes meet yours, and in them you see no threat, no anger, only presence. He speaks softly. There is nothing here to fight but your own fear. You take a shaky breath, feeling your fingers loosen slightly on the hilt. He moves again, a sudden shift, a blur of motion, and your body reacts before your mind can catch up. You raise the bokken, pivoting, stepping back, but he does not strike. He simply flows, moving toward you again and again and again, not landing blows, but forcing you to meet him, to stay present, to stay soft even as your fear spikes and surges. Your breath grows ragged, your arms tremble, sweat beads at your brow. You feel the old reflexes rising, the urge to lash out, to force control, to panic. But each time you tense, the sensei's movements slip past you, his presence circling, pressing, testing. And then, something inside you softens. You remember the lesson of the storm, to stand steady, not rigid. You remember the dance of the sword, not to overpower, but to move with. You remember the garden, to meet each moment with care, even as it changes. You take a deeper breath, shoulders lowering, grip lightening. You stop trying to anticipate, to defend, to control. You simply meet each movement as it comes. The sensei's eyes flicker with a faint smile. His movements slow. He circles once more, then lowers his bokken, bowing deeply. You bow in return, heart pounding, but not with panic now, with presence, with quiet triumph. The students around you step forward, bowing as well, their expressions softening. You sense their acknowledgement, not of perfection, not of victory, but of the inner threshold you have crossed. The sensei speaks softly as the sun crests the horizon, bathing the courtyard in pale gold. To face fear without aggression, to meet challenge without hardening, to hold your center even when the ground shifts. That is the mark of the peaceful warrior. You kneel, feeling the warmth of the sun on your skin, the pulse of your breath steadying. You realize that this trial was never about defeating an opponent. It was about meeting yourself fully, without flinching. That evening, as the dojo settles into quiet, you sit once more by the koi pond, watching the last light fade from the sky. You reflect on the trial, on the path you have walked, on the countless moments when you stumbled, learned, and rose again. You understand now that the warrior's path is not a summit to be reached, not a finish line to be crossed. It is a practice, a way of being, a lifelong journey of returning, again and again, to presence, to balance, to the quiet, unshakable strength within. As the stars emerge overhead, you close your eyes, drawing in a slow, deep breath, and you know with a steady, calm certainty that you are ready to face whatever comes next. The morning after the trial is bathed in soft, golden light. The air feels lighter, the courtyard quieter, as if even the walls of the dojo know what today means. You stand near the entrance, your practice robe neatly folded, your wooden sword resting across your lap. Today is the day of farewell. The sensei approaches, his footsteps soundless on the polished floor. His presence carries the same calm gravity you have known since your first night here. But there is a softness in his eyes today, a warmth beneath the steel. Without a word, he gestures for you to follow. Together, you walk through the familiar hallways, the meditation room, the training hall, the garden where you raked the sand, the path you walked after the storm. Each space feels both unchanged and deeply different, shaped by the countless moments you have spent here, the layers of practice, failure, learning, and quiet growth. The sensei leads you to a small alcove where a single scroll hangs, the same scroll you first saw on your arrival. You step closer, noticing details you hadn't before, the subtle flow of the brushstrokes, the way the ink's fading edges suggest both strength and impermanence. He speaks softly, his voice measured. The path of the warrior is not kept within these walls. It moves with you, wherever you go. You bow your head, feeling a tightness in your chest. He places something in your hands, a simple woven cord, marked with the dojo's crest. A symbol, not of completion, but of continuation, of the journey you will carry forward. You close your fingers around it, feeling the texture of the threads, the quiet promise it holds. Outside, the students gather, forming a line along the courtyard. Some smile softly, some bow their heads. Some simply stand in silent acknowledgement. You pass among them, bowing, exchanging small gestures of thanks, of connection. At the gate, the sensei waits. He bows deeply, and you return the gesture. feeling the full weight of this parting, not as an end, but as a threshold. He speaks once more. Remember, the blade is only as steady as the heart that wields it. The strength you carry is not measured by how hard you strike, but by how deeply you stand in the truth. You nod, swallowing the knot in your throat. With slow, deliberate steps, you walk away from the dojo, past the weathered gates, down the familiar forest path. The trees whisper softly in the breeze, the light shifting through the leaves, dappling the ground in patterns of gold and shadow. You reach the bamboo grove where your journey began, where the moonlight once drew you forward into the unknown. You pause there, feeling the earth beneath your feet, the quiet pulse of life all around you. You breathe in deeply, sensing the calm, the presence, the quiet strength you now carry within. As you take your first steps away into the wide world beyond, you know the sensei's teachings live on in you, not as rules or forms or rituals, but as a living practice, woven into every breath, every choice, every step. You feel the path ahead, stretching long and open, filled with unknown trials, joys, losses, and lessons. And you know with a deep, steady certainty that you will walk it fully, not as the person you were, but as the peaceful warrior you have become. You walk the narrow path away from the dojo, your pack light across your shoulders, the woven cord from the sensei tied carefully around your wrist. The morning sun warms your back as you descend into the valley, the world unfolding before you in soft, shimmering layers of green fields, winding rivers, and distant, snow-tipped peaks. The road ahead is quiet. You hear the crunch of gravel beneath your feet, the occasional birdsong from the trees, the whisper of wind through tall grass. With each step, you feel the weight of the journey you've walked, not as a burden, but as a quiet presence, a strength that now moves with you, silent and steady. You pass the first cluster of houses at the edge of the village, where farmers work in their fields and children chase each other between rows of crops. They glance up as you pass, some nodding in recognition, some simply offering small smiles. You return their greetings, feeling the faint stir of connection, of belonging, not because they know your name, but because you now move with the quiet, open presence of one who has learned to see. As you continue down the road, you catch sight of your reflection in a still pond beside the path. For a moment, you pause. You crouch beside the water, studying the face that gazes back, not the same one that arrived at the dojo under the pale light of the moon. This face carries new lines, new quiet, new steadiness. You remember the sensei's words, "The peaceful warrior walks alone, but never apart." You rise, adjusting your pack, feeling the pull of the road ahead. You know there will be trials, hard days, losses, moments when fear rises and doubt whispers. But you also know, deep in your chest, that you carry the tools to meet them, the breath that steadies, the patience that softens, the clarity that cuts through illusion. You walk on, the landscape unfolding gently, the path winding through fields and forests, through villages and open stretches of sky. Each step becomes its own meditation, its own quiet practice, as you move not towards some distant summit, but within the unfolding of the path itself. You pause at a small hill, looking back, far in the distance. Just visible through the trees, you glimpse the tiled roof of the dojo, the place where this chapter of your life began and ended. A faint H tugs at your chest, not of regret, but of gratitude. You bow softly, though no one is there to see, offering thanks to the teachers, the lessons, the trials that shaped you. And then you turn, facing forward, feeling the earth solid beneath your feet, the air cool on your skin, the horizon wide and open before you. With each breath, you walk, not as a student, not as a master, but as one who carries the peaceful warrior's path within, wherever the road may lead.